Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jim Nowakowski with Interline Creative Group, welcoming all of you, a lot of people in the room today, to talk about how information is spread, quote, spread in a COVID-19 world. We've got architects, designers, manufacturers. We got a lot of different people in the audience today, and we're very excited to present to you. This is actually NKBA AIA. This is an AIA course. This is an IDCEC approved course and also an NKBA approved course. So we're going to make sure you get the credit for the course. There's a lot of people in here that didn't want the credit, but they want to know how information is spread, and we appreciate that. But if you are here for the credit, we'll make sure that you do in fact get the credit. This presentation is copyrighted. However, at the end, I will give you my email. If you want to get a copy of the slides, I'll send you a PDF file, because we want to share information with you, not just, secretly information. We designed this course because in the world of sales and marketing, it's kind of upside down. You've heard that before, haven't you? And the disruption is causing how information flows. I almost canceled this course, actually, because there's so much information. Why tell you how information is spread when all you have to do is just put on your computer and immediately you're doing that? So one of the things we're going to talk about today is how professionals like architects, engineers, end users receive information in the virus-infected world, how they transmitted the information in the virus-infected world, and so on and so forth. And what we're going to do to accomplish that is we're going to bring in research from Accountability Information Management, a research company that did research on this thing since it hit last year. This research you'll see was done in August, but it talks about how information is spreading these days. And we can take and think about how COVID information is spreading, but if you think about it, that doesn't stop the fact that construction professionals, like everyone in the audience, needs good, reliable information. What we want to do is stimulate your thinking. Albert Camus said once, it's not the soundness of the argument, but the fact that it makes you think. That's what we want to do today, is we want to help you think about information, how it flows, how you can get information to your business in a better way. To do that, we're going to learn how how COVID-19 has impacted the selection of your products, of these products. And quite frankly, we want to evaluate the different types of communication. Everybody's looking who's in sales and marketing. I know all of you have an interest in sales and marketing. I see some friendly faces who have been here before. I see some people who I haven't seen since we had real-time meetings before from the focus groups I used to attend. So welcome everybody. And what we really want to do is we want to compare the pre and the post-COVID, because right now you're hearing with the vaccines coming on that everything is going to be quote unquote normal again. Forget about it. I had an email from an associate the other day. It said, Jim, when do you think the new normal is going to come? I said, first of all, there's no such thing as normal, right? If it's not normal, it's abnormal. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that we are in an abnormal world, and we're going to be in an abnormal world for a long time. So not only should you get used to it, you should really understand how to really get the information you need to get to your customers and prospects, which is really about that last point. It's about differentiating yourself. That's really the key. I always like to start off with a couple of quotes. And by the way, if you have questions, there's a question box in the corner over there. Please put your questions on. I want to make it a dialogue, not just a monologue. So if you do have a question when we're going through this, please ask it, and I'll try to answer it during the course of the presentation or after the presentation. Jim Lovell said there are three kinds of people in the world: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wonder what happened. I'm really dying to ask which one are you, but I think you're the people who make things happen. That's why you're in the audience today. But Jim Lovell was not the only guy who said it. If you go back to 1513, Mr. Machiavelli said that there are three different types of brains in the world. One understands without unassisted. The other understands when it's shown by others, and the other one never understands anything. So there's nothing new under the sun with this virus. They call it the novel coronavirus. There's nothing novel about this thing. What this thing is, it's a virus. And if you know anything about viruses, which the flu is a virus, the cold is a virus, these things have a habit of spreading, right? What you're witnessing today is really not COVID-19. You're experiencing the effects of what governments have done in reaction to this virus. What they did is they elevated it to a pandemic, and then they took steps to really crush businesses, to make it very difficult for the people in this audience to do business. And the way they did it is they locked it down. They locked us down. And I'm in Illinois, and that's one of the first things they did, unless you were in an essential business. Well, one of the things to think about is when they do lock you down, what do? If you're in the restaurant business, you're probably not in my audience today, because restaurants were killed. And they're still being devastated, right? People don't know what to do. So there's lots of uncertainty. The good news is when there's uncertainty, there's opportunities. Opportunities arise. If you look at the chart on the right, telework friendliness from least to most, the hospitality industry has been crushed. They're talking about, yesterday I saw on a news thing, I don't watch the news anymore for obvious reasons, but one of the things I heard is that they're recommending you wear 3 masks, not just one. And they're recommending testing. If you take a plane, you have to show documentation that you've tested, negative for the coronavirus. And that's all well and good if no one lies, right? If no one lies. I want you to think about that, because what we're talking about today is information and how it flows. The one thing you have to think about in the old days, I'm going to date myself now, is a newspaper. Newspapers were one of the few channels that we used when I was a young man. And you got a newspaper, you waited for the news, or you listened to the radio or television, which only had 3 channels. The bad news is today is that the minute you hook up your computer, you're on a big, big, big newspaper. The world is your newspaper, and you're getting information. So the first thing to understand about information spread is you have to become a filter. You have to filter, and you have to understand not only how it spreads, but how you can spread it as well. It's almost parallels what's going on with coronavirus. Success in marketing means you're at the right place at the right time with the right service. And if you know anything about the construction industry since last year, and they're saying, oh, it's going to recover, it's going to recover. I don't know. They don't know. They're trying to sound optimistic. But what happened with the construction industry, look what happened to schools. They're still debating in Chicago, I hear they're taking a vote tonight, on if they should go back to school and teach. I know it's difficult to believe when, quote unquote, the science is saying it's okay to do that, but that's what's going on nowadays with information. So your services, the services I see of the people in the audience today, the manufacturers, the design, your services haven't changed that much, have they? It's how you communicate those services that has really flipped upside down. Also, you're going to be required to do new services. You know who's making money head over heels these days? Plastic. Remember the Graduate movie, The Plastics, when he said that, plastics? Little did we know that, in fact, that's the key to the universe. People who are making plexiglass, the resin people, the vinyl people, are going through the roof with business. They're running 3 shifts. They can't keep up with the plastic, right? But you and I are not in the plastic business. So new services are going to be required, and they will be required. The question is when. McKinsey is a big company. It's a consulting company. They like to look at it like this, right? That word reimagining is bugging the heck out of me, because I don't understand reimagining the next normal. They use the 5 R's: resolve, resilience, return, and that's all nice. But if you sit back and ask yourself, what does that mean to your business? I will tell you one thing: if you are not resilient, if you were not resilient, you wouldn't be in the audience today. Resilience is just it's a given in a situation like this. You have to be able to rethink what you're doing, not reimagine so much, because you can reimagine a lot of different things. That doesn't mean it's going to become true. So resolve and resilience are very important. But what's more important is that change will lead to disruption, and disruption leads to opportunities. These opportunities are uncovered, they're explored, and they're useful to find out through information. And that, ladies and gentlemen, how you grow your business. I have to pinch myself every morning to understand why my company of 15 people is still standing. Should I repeat that? Do you pinch yourself? It's a good thing. Because I asked my crew at the end of last year, why are we still here? There's no reason why we should still be here. But we're here because we're a diverse organization. We try to differentiate ourselves, and we haven't lost sight of our focus. We keep trying everything, which is what we're going to talk about. We try to give people what they want. Here's a direct quote from one of the pieces of research. And by the way, Accountability Information Management, our sister company, is doing research continually. Look at we have to know the firm and their reputation. We have to trust their performance. We have to be able to communicate with them and trust, look at the word trust, that they will give us and for what we have asked for. Ladies and gentlemen, that quote is still relevant whether the virus is here or not. That quote has never, ever changed. What has changed is not the fact that your clients don't trust you. It's that they're afraid they'll get infected if they come over. They're afraid they'll get infected. But the great, great, great news is information is virus free. Isn't it? It travels virus free. It's on the internet. What's inside that piece of information may be virus, may be bad, but the information transmission itself is fine, right? What you're looking at on the right is the latest Construct Connect, right? Projections for construction. Look at all the minus signs in construction starts, second row, the second group of words, in 2020. Minus 18%, minus 2, minus 31, minus 19. And what they're projecting in 2021 is plus 8, plus 6, etc. They're projecting more. Do they really know? Look at the headline on the left. U.S. starts fall to lowest level in 5 years. So if they're at their lowest level in 5 years, if you get 2 more than you did last year, sheesh, you're booming, right? No, you're not. Ladies and gentlemen, there are still certain industries who haven't ever caught up with the last 2009 downturn. You understand this, right? What you have to do in your business is always be looking, and you start by looking at how information is shared, how you can create it, how you consume it, and how you distribute it. That's really what you have to do. As I said earlier, this research asked me, don't forget to ask questions. This was done in August. So this was done a few months ago, but what you're going to see today is a lot of this stuff is so relevant, it's not going to change in the next 6 months. So this research will give you insights on how people are creating, finding information. I'm going to say this right off the bat. Before the research, 70% of the people who were looking for what you did went to Google first. Before the virus, that is, not the research. Before the virus, 70% of people who were looking for what you did went to Google first. What do you think it is now? What percentage of people go to Google first when they're looking for stuff, including information about the virus? They go to Google first, don't they? 90%. I've seen figures as high as 90%. So one of the things you have to understand, if you're going to be a player in the post-COVID world, which is still going on, right? You have to have a website that is SEO'd properly, that people find you on page 1. If you're going to be absolutely a player, you have to understand that. Here's the first thing that they looked at. In the era of COVID and social distancing, have you changed the way you get new product information from manufacturers? Now remember, I have architects, I have engineers, I have showrooms, I have manufacturers, I have all sorts of businesses in the audience. And this is asking them, have you changed the way you get new product information? Ladies and gentlemen, 73% said it changed overall. Now, if you look at the charts, you can see that that percentage varies by people. But if that's true, if around 70% of the people have changed the way they get information, and you're still using the same ways you've done information, what do you think is happening to your information? It's not getting through, is it? Look at Zoom. Zoom meetings have gone through the roof. It's now called the Zoom room, right? It's absolutely fascinating to me on how this is going in terms of information flow. Because ladies and gentlemen, you can be in the manufacturing, you can be in the service business, you can be in the architectural business. It doesn't matter what business you're in. We are all in the information business. And if we don't understand how information is transmitted, filtered, and understood by people, it's not going to go well for us. It's not going to go well for us. Imagine for a moment if you could have predicted what would happen in a pandemic, right? That they would actually lock down businesses and forbid businesses. For reasons, yeah, everybody wants to be safe. No one's saying don't be safe. But if you really look and examine the truth, the information going on about the virus, and you ask yourself, why isn't the phone ringing? It's not because they don't know about you, it's because they can't even find you and can't think about you. So one of the things you have to do is penetrate. You have to penetrate that fear out there. One of the quotes, it's like a neutron bomb went off. That's an exact quote from this research that they did. A neutron, you can still see on the streets, right? It's not normal. But the good news is it's not going to last forever, and you have to be prepared. Look at the last line there. If time is currency, how do you get people thinking about your stuff instead of the virus? How do you get people thinking about your stuff? You have to be there. You have to be constantly there in the ways that they're accepting this information. So one of the questions that AIM asked is, how often do you use the following sources of information? Manufacturer's website, Google searches, manufacturer's rep. This is out of 5, right? By the audiences. So if you're an end user, if you're an engineer, if you're a manufacturer trying to reach these audience, or in fact, if you're an architect, like I have architects in there, trying to reach end users and trying to reach out, look at these. Look at the single most important source of information today is the manufacturer's websites. Every group, our architect, designers, they go to the manufacturer. So I have to ask the manufacturers, and I'm going to flip this in a moment. Manufacturers out there, how good is your website? How SEO'd is your website? Do you know, in fact, who's visiting your website? Do you know what they look for on your website? If you don't know the answers to those questions, you're not even, and you can't be on page 1 when people are looking for what you sell. Guess what? You're not at the table. That's what hurts everyone. And because people are using manufacturers' websites, we had a manufacturer who just redid his website. It took him 3 years to redo his website, so he thought his timing was perfect. We did a research survey for that manufacturer and went out to the customers. And then we also like to double check. So we did a research project on his customers' customers. And guess what? No one knew he did a new website. It looked like it did 6 years ago. That's the overlying comment that we received. Now, this manufacturer spent 6 figures on redoing his website. The virus hit, boom, right? He thought he's in perfect condition to do this. And guess what? Nobody saw it. It's like the same thing, no big deal. I don't even go there because they don't see anything new. So people are in fact looking for something new. I'm not saying anything, but you have to check out where professionals go. One of the secrets of success is the second bullet point. Google reads everything. I'm going to repeat that throughout this presentation. Google reads everything. And they index everything. And if you doubt that, I can give you some examples of that. For example, if you Google never lower your price, our blog is #1. Google indexed that blog when we wrote it, a year or so ago. And now when people Google about pricing or how to, when should you lower your price, we got great SEO and people read that content. What are you doing about what you sell? What does your content look like? I don't see any questions yet. I must be getting through. This is great. Has COVID-19 affected the time you spend in the office versus working remotely? This sounds like a silly question nowadays, right? But in August, it was a question. But it's a very relevant question even today, because we hear from our clients that they're starting to get back to the office a little bit. Not a lot, but I want you to look at this chart here, because this is the tell. This is one of the tells. They're not in the office. So if you send something to their office, like we did when the pandemic first hit, we did a mailing. We did a 3D mailing. We mailed marbles to our clients. This is a true story. We put 4 marbles in a little bag, and we sent them a little card. And the headline on the card was, has everyone lost their marbles? And when you opened it up, the marbles came out, the bag was there, and we said, we're here to help. We don't want everybody to, it was a great mailing. It was one of the greatest, I love 3D mailings. I love direct mail. We sent it to all our clients. Guess what happened? Nothing. You know why? They weren't in the damn office. Sorry, didn't mean to swear. They weren't in the office. So did that mean it failed? No, we got on the phone, we called them, we laughed. We said, the next time you go to the office, or do you want me to send the marbles to your home? 4 projects emerged from those calls. 4 projects in the conversation, because one of the secrets, ladies and gentlemen, is that your list, your customer file, is your most valuable asset. And most of the time, if you can have a conversation with people and talk over ideas, projects will happen. Projects will happen. I cannot imagine any architect or designer in the audience who has a customer file calling up and saying, just asking this question: what are you doing to address the pandemic now that we're starting to return? Can I help in any way? Are you kidding? If I were an architect, I would be dialing every day for that question. What can you do to help? If you look at mirror, mirror on, remember that mirror, mirror on the wall, you still know people haven't been back into the office, but they talk about it. There is no new normal. When things are in flux, opportunity is everywhere. You simply have to call people up. You have to talk to them. You have to send them an email. Well, Jim, they don't respond to my emails. Now what? Send them another email. Don't be obnoxious, but keep after them. Give them something. You have to give in order to receive. Wait a minute. This is not a religion class. It is not. This is a business class. And in business, those who give receive. You have to give something. If you don't give anything, then people are not going to want what you're selling. For example, look at the second from the bottom. What if you created a panel of experts to discuss what's being required in industrial or commercial construction? What if you did that? And what if you Zoom meeting that? I was on a major associations, we're going to talk about trade shows in a minute. I was on a major trade shows, virtual trade show yesterday, and you know what? It was horrible. It was horrible. I couldn't believe the experience. I'll talk about it in a moment. But you have to start thinking outside and inside that box that you're in. You have to do things. And here's where the architects come in. Well, I'm an architect and I'm a designer, and I have to maintain my third-party, objective, non-proprietary point of view. Really? Why? That was pre-COVID. You better start understanding manufacturers and getting closer to manufacturers. And by the way, they've done this outside the United States for many years, where architects and designers became affiliated with certain manufacturers. Well, Jim, I'm an architect. I have to maintain objectivity. Of course you do. But that doesn't mean you can't have a preference. Every one of you, guaranteed, designer, architect, every one of you has a short list. You have multiple manufacturers on that short list. What's wrong with representing one or two? Not representing them, but having a preference. Architects, we've studied preference for 30 years. Architects have always had preference. Always. Designers have preference. You don't just use Tom, Dick, or Harriet. You use a preferred brand, right? So what's wrong with coming closer to that preferred brand and working together to overcome some of the fear that's out there? I would suggest nothing. Here's a couple of comments that might be the tell. The advantages were no compute and more free time, but the problems include less interaction with peers. It's harder to stay focused for long periods of time because there's no set end to the workday. Welcome to my world. I lost the concept of a weekend once I started in business 30 years ago in 1990. I had no idea, I still have no idea what a weekend is. It doesn't matter to me because you're 24/7. I had a client today, right? They asked for a major piece of research, right? Close to 6 figures, just right below that. And, I'm emailing with the client. This is a big, big, big association. And, I'm interpreting it that they want it done in February. Well, it's already February 9th. And I'm saying, well, I need that budget approved. I need the questions, right? And then they replied, no, we still have to talk it amongst ourselves. I had such a sense of urgency. And I have to apologize in an email, right? Sometimes clients don't like to talk on the phone; they're too busy. So I replied in the email, I apologize. It was just my sense of urgency. You ready for the line? Because things change so fast. They change so fast. What's true today may not be true tomorrow. Hence, your 24/7 is not just a pipe dream. You have to be on all the time. And while working remotely gives you flexibility with personal life, children, etc., people need interaction. I'm telling you right now, one of the best decisions we made here at Interline is to keep our office open since last March. We declared ourselves an essential business. We have many businesses here. One of them is selling soap. And I said, well, if the governor of Illinois says, distributing soap is essential business, then we're all distributors of soap. And we did. And we maintained distances. When people were uncomfortable, they would wear a mask. And we're here. We're here working for our clients. That's what, you have to take everything and in perspective of what your objective is, right? So as you read these quotes, that's the tell. People need people. I am not going to sing that song. I'm not. What can, or should a product manufacturer do to make the website better? I'm going to stop at the first one. Make it easier to navigate. The biggest complaint we have, almost 50% said that, right? And then look at the next one, 19. That's a tell, right? The rest is just, I can use a rep locator, etc. But it's make it easier to navigate. Before you redesign a website, you should do a little research on it. Ask people, is it easy? What would you do differently, etc., etc., etc. That's what they could do. And why did we ask this question? Because manufacturers' websites are the single source where people go for information, not just manufacturers. They go to your website. If you're an architect, they go to your website. How many of the architects in the audience still do their websites in Flash, right? And Flash is no longer read by Chrome. And guess what? Google cannot read Flash. Google can't read pictures. You have to caption pictures. Google loves text. A picture is worth 10,000 words. I used to work for a guy that said, Jim, why use 100? Why use 10 words when 100 will do? I never forgot that. People accuse me of writing long copy, which I do, but that's okay. How satisfied are you with product manufacturers' websites? This is interesting, huh? Not to be redundant, but your website is the key to the puzzle. Even though most 7 out of 10 are satisfied, that's still 30% who are not. Think about that. The information is current, the overall content. These are some of the things that people look for on websites, right? Current content. We have one manufacturer who builds his spec sheets on the fly. In other words, these sheets do not exist. What the person does is he goes through a series of steps, assembles them, and then produces the specification sheets for his specifications. That's very innovative, I would say. That's very innovative. Before COVID, what was your preferred method for a manufacturer to introduce a new product, and what is it today? When we did this last August and I saw this chart, I shared it with all our clients. I tweeted about it. I'm a great tweeter. This is one of the most important charts you'll see. Look at the difference between pre-COVID and today. Even in the manufacturer's website, look at the pop. Look at the pop and look at the bottom, trade shows. 64% got their preferred method because we used to always like to congregate, right? 2% at trade shows. They're still not sure about trade shows, ladies and gentlemen. And can I make a prediction now that you can hold me to? Even when they get comfortable and they say that we've turned the corner, it ain't going to be the same. It's never going to be the same. People are not, they've realized now they don't have to be there to get the information. They could just go to the website. I cannot stress that enough. CEUs are important. Look at the pop in CEUs. Look, I mean, it's incredible to me. We had a client in last March, major manufacturer of appliances. We had 5 CEUs going for him, and he closed them all down because of the pandemic. I said, why are you doing that? People will want to be online learning. We don't have the budget. Well, of course they did, but they were relegating it elsewhere. Budget decisions are very important. What did this client do at the end of this year? He not only brought back those 5, he created 2 new ones and brought back the 15 he had before that. Because he realized over the pandemic, people are staying home more. They have more time to explore. They have more time to learn. I'm telling you right now, CEU creation is one of the secrets of success. Look at the reps. Reps are totally being displaced, right? Before COVID, right? A phone call from a rep, right? And now they need the phone. They got to be on the phone. They can't show up in the office, and white papers and so on. The people, this is going to have long-lasting effects. I spoke at KBIS for the past 7 years. I was a featured speaker. I'm very dynamic on stage, if you haven't guessed it. I'm standing around, running around now. I have to close my glass door because I disturbed the people in the office. And when they asked me last April if I were planning to do that again, I said no. And October 9th, they said they would have a virtual show, which is going on this week. I attended the opening last week. It's not the same. I'm going to go back into the show the next few days. I'm going to virtually go around it. But here's one of the questions I had that you should think about. If it's a virtual show, and in the old days when it was a trade show at McCormick Place or in Orlando at the stadium down there, you would open up at 10 o'clock on the day of the show, right? And people would be jammed, shoulder to shoulder, waiting to get into the exhibit floor. Oh my God, such excitement, right? Well, you couldn't get into the virtual show until 10 o'clock today. What's wrong with that picture? I can tell you right now that trade show is not differentiating themselves. And I'm not picking on them. I don't know what they did, nor does it matter really. But if it were my show, why would I limit it to 10 o'clock? When in fact 24/7 is the key. Wait, I know why, Jim, because the manufacturers didn't want to man the virtual booth 24/7. Really? Well, why don't I start a service that helps them man the booth when they want to go home and sleep? You see what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? In fact, what I'm suggesting to you is you have to use how people use information now, rethink it, and how you can fit in there. Why can't you, as a manufacturer, as an architect, have your own virtual trade show and talk about the products that you specify to attract new clients? I'm just saying. Because the human voice is expressive. You can use the human voice is great. Not if you do this. Jim, can you tell me about your next presentation? That's not excitement, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget the Postal Service. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the USPS. Virus free. They deliver letters all the time. Become the voice of leadership. I still don't see any questions. I must be doing good. How am I doing on time? Perfect. Who has the best website for your purposes, right? This was a question that they asked. And if you look at it, you can see the answer to that question, right? There's a lot of different people who have sites and that the people that we polled like, but 61% preferred the other. Do you remember the movie The Matrix? How can you become the one? People in the audience who are architects and who are not architects should know the name Gensler, one of the largest architectural firms in the United States, if not the world. They produce a newsletter called Dialogue. What a great name. I don't think you can trademark it, so please take it. They produce every month, if not more than twice a month, but every month, an issue that talks about what they're doing to their business in commercial, industrial, educational, institutional buildings and how to strike. I remember when the first newsletter came out, one of the articles talked about the use of elevators in the skyscrapers because of COVID. And they were suggesting that people were going to be taking numbers, signing in and waiting for on the iPhone to be called to go up in the elevator. Well, that's all changed already, hasn't it? Not only because of the vaccines, but they were addressing issues and talking to their clients and prospects about things that mattered. Remember, what matters most during this pandemic is safety. We want to be safe. So talk to people about that. How do you make people safe with your service? There's big debates about that. So the question is, how do you become Neo? You want to become the one. You want to become the one by putting in questions in Google and being on page one. So how likely are you going to use the following types of information? 1 to 5 scale, different audiences. Look at this, right? Email with detailed product information and a link to the website. Almost everybody likes that, except engineers are a little lower, but even they're close to 4. So 4 out of 5. Free CE, remember what I told you about CEUs and webinars, right? Somebody asked me today, do you charge for these webinars? I said, I do not. And why don't I? Because I want to share information. Who knows? One of you might be out there thinking someday and say, wait, that guy knows about this. Maybe I should call Interline, right? That's why we do this. We want to share the information so you think of us in a positive way. Free online webinars, non-CEU. So CEUs are important because they want to maintain their credentials, but even non-CEUs get up there. And then it goes down. Email with a link to a YouTube video demo. Look who likes that. If you're trying to reach engineers, or if you're an engineer trying to reach end users, right? I would say videos, and by the way, videos are becoming even more relevant today because not only is cable taking a hit, right? But think about it, ladies and gentlemen. There's the channels are look at what Netflix did to streaming video. Isn't that something? I see a question. Okay, here's a question from Mike. Mike is asking. Let me read this properly here. The first page of the search result typically requires deep pockets, but there are strategies to get results such as unique keywords. Can you talk about this? Thank you for that question, Mike. Yes. I'll take a little slight diversion to talk about SEO and first page results. There's lots of secrets to search words. Search words are what you put in the background on your website, like tagging and so on and so forth. The key to SEO, the key is content and linking. Content is so important. If you look and you try to find out how many pages Home Depot has, you're going to find out that they probably have close to 70, 80,000 pages. Well, Jim, I don't have, as Mike just said, I don't have the deep pockets to create 80, 10,000 pages, much less 70,000 pages. Of course you don't, but you can create relevant pages of content, relevant pages, plural, that get you into that zone. There's no secret to this. There really isn't. There's content, content, content. The more pages you have, the more indexed you'll be by Google, the more likely you are to be on page one. And by the way, there are companies that we've suggested and helped to raise their level for example, in insulation, radiant barrier. We've helped the company over the last 2-3 years to grow and maintain, right, once they hit it, their page one position. And we did it by posting blogs, almost one a week for a long time. And now it's virtually impossible to ask a question about insulation without their website being on page one. So Mike, the answer to your question is really content. You need lots and lots and lots of pages. So I hope that answers your question. And I'll be able to take some more questions if people have them. 15-minute, etc. Podcasts are good and other things are good. All right? All right. Wait, Mike, did you see this presentation beforehand? I'm just kidding. Of course he didn't. Ladies and gentlemen, look at the headline of the next slide. Drown them in content. Help, I'm drowning. Mail, FedEx, UPS. For example, I'm telling you right now, a strategically placed FedEx message to a company is likely to get read. I'll give you a good example. About 4 or 5 months ago, I read about a president of a major company, plumbing company. He just got named the new president. I wrote him a one-page letter, very unusual for me, overnighted it to his attention. And the opening line was, boy, could you have picked a better time to become the president? Now, this is a big, big, big company, right? I said, I'd like to have a 30-minute conversation with you, but 15 will do, et cetera. It was a one-page letter, told him, we've been around. 3 days later, the phone rings and it's him, it's Bob. Jim, it's Bob. I gave him my cell phone and he called me on my cell phone. He goes, it's Bob. I go, but, and I'm thinking, I know a lot of Bobs. My brain is synapsing, right? And by the time I realized who it is, it was like that 5-second delay. He realized that he didn't know who he was. And I said, oh, Bob, how you doing? We had a 5-minute conversation. He thanked me for the letter. It was a great conversation. I wanted to extend it, but he says, no, I gave your name to another guy in my organization who's looking for representative firms. He mistook me as a sales rep firm. Not that we're not, but that's not why I was calling him. So that's a learning experience for me. But I'm telling you right now, do not overlook USPS, FedEx. The emails are great. Emails get through. I can tell you right now, our emails get through because we customize the emails. It's not just mass emailing, it's custom email. And they do work. They don't work, it's not 100%. There is no magic bullet, but you have to keep trying and testing. I come from a direct mail background where we would do 10 things, mail 10, 10 things out, 100 out, 10 back, 10%. How do I improve it? Change the headline, change the color. And those days are still relevant. You know what the most important thing in an email is. It's the subject line. The subject line or the person sending it will get them to open it or just delete it into spam. And how many emails go into spam, right? There's a reason they're going into spam. I get at least 25 emails every morning asking me to if I could use their help in creating apps. Right? And you can always tell they're not really companies. This, and because they start out like this. This is Jim Nowakowski. You never start out by saying who you are, right? Or you start out saying, I'm Jim Nowakowski. The minute you hear anything like that, you know, uh-oh, not of this world. What a manufacturer introduces to a product material. What information is most important to you? Look at the third one, technical information. Engineers want technical information. I remember when we launched a new product for a major European manufacturer, and this was a behind the wall. This was the product that goes behind the wall to support a toilet off the floor. It's called a carrier. And it was behind the wall, so it's very technical, but they would show beautiful restrooms, beautiful bathrooms. This was a residential product. Just beautiful, gorgeous. I mean, you could live to die for. These restrooms are bigger sometimes. These bathrooms are bigger than my home. Just beautiful, right? And when they hired us, I went in there and I said, you're missing the boat here because designers wanted to know technical information. They didn't believe me. So we did research on it. And interior designers who are responsible for these products, right, specifying them, recommending them, if they don't know the technical information, right, they're not going to recommend them. And so in the next trade show, this was years ago, what they did is they built a bunch of kiosks that showed how the carrier worked. It was an unbelievable hit. They didn't change that booth for 4 years, because they realized very quickly that technical information is important, not just to engineers, but to designers. Features and functions and benefits, the benefits, how the product is used, case histories. This is all very important on what they want. You have to give them what they want. And not everybody wants the same thing, right? And right now, fear is still governing most response. So to break through the fear, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to break through the fear? Be fearless. Show them you are fearless. Show them how your product and services is addressing this. Address the fear, and then sell them your products and services safely. Look at what John Donne said in 1623. What will not kill a man if a vapor will? Ladies and gentlemen, they knew about vapors centuries ago, right? Vapors are not good. They never were good. Those little buggers. We want to stamp them out. By the way, killthegerms.com. Killthegerms.com. Go to killthegerms.com. There's some friendly posters from our friendly MarketNet representatives. So how much impact is this going to have on your future selection of products? Well, you could see, I could see an increase in requests for easy to clean products, hygiene. We have a manufacturer we represent that makes touchless things, and their business, saved them last year. We don't make touchless things here at Interline, but we're still standing because we did other things. So you have to emphasize on how products will address the COVID environment we're living in. That's what you have to do. Engineers don't think it's going to change much, but it's going to change. You know it's going to change. They'll get on board. Are any restrictions does your company have or place on visitors? Face masks, social distancing, that's going to be here for a while. I remember my first meeting that I was called to last year with a new client, and they said, you're gonna have to wear a mask. Is that okay? I said, I'll wear 3 masks. I bought a thermometer. I took my temperature when I walked in. It was a great experience. We laughed. It was a great meeting, but I sat there for 2 hours in a mask. It was unbelievable. And at the end, the president comes up, if you sit at the end of the table, you can take your mask off. He's a character. The meeting was over. We had a good laugh. What a wonderful experience, you see? You embrace the experience, right? Because it's not going to change that much. It's not going to change. When you do participate, will you schedule rep visits or CEU lunches? Overall, they think it's going to happen. It's starting to happen. And it really depends. We have a representative business. He's starting to go out now because he makes appointments with showrooms. But there's been some great innovation during the COVID when people would actually meet in the parking lot. I saw right outside my window, you can't see it here, there was a guy standing in the car. This was in the cold. This was just a month ago in January. He was standing in the cold next to someone in the car transacting business. He had a face mask on, they had a face mask on, and there was something going on. And I thought it was a drug deal. It wasn't. It was the mortgage bankers upstairs signing papers in the parking lot. So if the mountain won't, if Mohammed can't go to the mountain, bring the mountain to Mohammed, right? Do what you need to do to get things done. Are your company currently allowing people in? Right? You can see no manufacturer rep visits are allowed, 79%. This was in March. It's probably less than that now, but you're never, ever, you can quote me on this, going to replace the Zoom meetings. Zoom meetings are here to stay. And quite frankly, if you don't over Zoom and have 14,000 people in the room, you're going to do very well with a Zoom meeting with your clients or a couple of clients, or a conference call nowadays as well. I just scheduled one with a client who emailed me right before this presentation and wants to set it up for Friday. And I said, what do you prefer? Zoom, go to meetings, a phone call? Microsoft Teams, they have Microsoft Teams. We'll do whatever it takes to get in front of a client, and so should you. So should you. There's a service out there that are springing up that are sending cookies to clients, right? So let's wrap it up. We've got a few minutes. People staying in front of their home, to avoid infection. Figure out how to connect in their home. Do you know the amount of residential remodeling going on today is huge? Well, Jim, I'm a commercial architect. Well, yeah. I read a long time ago that the designers of schools, now don't quote me on this, and I hesitate to even do this because I do record these things, but I'm going to say it anyway, that the designers of schools often looked at the designs of prisons in order to understand how to design the schools. I don't know, maybe I should do a poll. Is that true out there, you architects and designers out there? But I'm saying there's a lot of similarities now in residential and construction, isn't there? They're making these offices now. Do you think that the home office being redesigned is not going to impact how a commercial office? Do you think commercial office buildings are going to survive? You should do some research, figure out how to filter the right information, and then attack that problem. Ladies and gentlemen, there are problems everywhere, waiting for you to solve them, waiting for your unique insights, right? Employers close down for safety reasons. How do you help them open up? Government are still mandating, blah, 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 blah. Your website is the key. Create a conference room on your website. Create a live chat. I heard in the retail business, because the retail stores were decimated, right? They were bringing their experts, their managers into the chat rooms, and they were increasing their online sales astronomically because you had all the people with the knowledge suddenly in the chat room talking to people who want to buy what they're selling. Can you imagine that? That people with knowledge are talking to people who are seeking knowledge and want to buy what they are educating them in order to make the sales transaction. That, ladies and gentlemen, to me, that's total revolutionary, isn't it? Are you kidding me? That should have been going on all the time. Your strategy is the key, ladies and gentlemen. Your strategy is the key. Okay. I've done a lot of talking. I've answered one question. Okay. Do I have any more questions? Let me see here. Wrap it up. Change the equation. There's the dialogue email that I mentioned that Gensler has. So if you're an architect, partner with manufacturers. And if you're a manufacturer, partner with architects. Break the chain. The chain is already broken, ladies and gentlemen. The chain, it's broken. It's broken. Business is not going to be the same. So create the new lines of business. Do the unexpected and be innovative. Can we do that together? Oh, I feel like Columbo. One more thing. I just saw this yesterday on a it wasn't a webinar. It was just like a 2-minute TED talk. And I thought this is interesting because this guy was talking about your brain cells and how your brain cells actually help you become more creative, more analytical. And these are some of the things, it sources this Stephen Kotler, who's a New York Times journalist, wrote a bunch of books. But he talked about these triggers that increase your creativity, right? For example, immediate feedback is good. Clear your goals. Become one. Become focused. Why do performance athletes have, in the last 10 years, have they quadrupled what they were able to do? If you look at, if you know anything about performance acts, because they only focus on one thing. And when you focus on one thing, it's easy to do that one thing, isn't it? But you do that at great expense. You may have to sacrifice your personal life. You may have to sacrifice something else. You may have to sacrifice the cookies as you pass them, you know, if they're on the table. Don't eat that cookie. But what you have to understand is that performance enhancement is what we're after today. And the way you do that with more than anything on this list is understanding how information flows, how information moves, how information is transmitted. So I'm going to my questions. Do I have any questions? Oh, I see a question. Oh, it's not a question. It's from Gail. She said it's true. Oh, Gail, what was I talking about? I know it's true. I only speak the truth. Some people say I don't, but that's the research people. Sometimes I will make a conclusion based on one result, and I get hammered by my research director. You can't do that. It's only one result. I said, well, it sounds good to me. I'm kidding. Any other questions? You can tell I have fun, don't you? All right. I think that's it. All right. On behalf of everyone here at Interline, I want to thank you for your attention. Very, very, very much. I hope you got something out of this. If you want the slides, if you want to talk over anything, if you got a question, there's my email, there's my phone number. You can reach me anytime. I won't guarantee that I'll answer right away because, you know, I run around. We're doing major pieces of research now too, and we're interviewing people about their experience with the client's product. And I'm telling you, I'm having the time of my life. If you like a set of our 8 guides, just go to there, fill out the form, I'll send them to you. If you want online courses, go to our website at CEU Courses. And they're all online, they're recorded, they give credit. There's other topics that we talk about. And if you want the AIM accountability snapshots, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking at Patty Flighter right now as she passes my glass door. She produces these snapshots. If you go to aim.com/snapshots, you can click on any one of them and sign up to receive future research. Follow me on Twitter. My next presentation is not a week, it's next month, second Tuesday of every month. It's how to target and hit the right customers, special COVID edition. Now, I have to add a footnote in here. This is the same presentation. I know some of you are in the audience because you attended the one in January that NKBA put out there. But NKBA had a technical snafu, and they didn't record it. The recording didn't work. So what I did is I moved this. I was going to do this later this year, but I moved it up until March. So those of you who didn't have the recording and you don't want to just settle for the PDF slides can come to this next March. It'll be on March 9th at 10 o'clock. One final note, Navigating COVID is a bunch of articles that I've written that are produced on the different markets. I encourage you to read them. Again, on behalf of everyone on Interline, I'd like to thank you so much for attending. Have a great day.